When I was trying to sit down to think about what this khutbah was going to be about and kind of brainstorming how I'm going to start the khutbah, I was thinking about what's a good analogy of Ramadan. Like, if I have to give like a parable or an example, I could say Ramadan is like this. So I thought maybe I could give it like a car, like you're driving a car and you get a crash and Ramadan, or let's say you get a car and after a while it needs a service, it needs maintenance, right? Like on the car you get that light, it says it needs service. So you take it into the shop, it gets a service, tune up, whatever. But then I thought, when you crash your car, let's say you get a nice tune up and all, but let's say you crash into another car the moment you leave the shop, or you hit a bus or something on the way out. That tune up is not going to help you. You got a tune up, but too bad. You could hit a bus whenever, you could crash into whatever, and your car is wrecked. There's no use of a maintenance or service then. So I thought maybe like a better example would actually be, it's like getting a car, getting a maintenance for a car, and also getting a crash course and a fund that if you crash your car, here's your insurance if you wish. Here's how to fix it, and here's the money for it. It's all free. This is what Ramadan does. It gives you a crash course. You crash your spiritual vehicle. Here's how to fix it, and it's free. So this is what Ramadan has given to us. It's given us tools that obviously life is not going to be easy and rainbows and butterflies after Ramadan. That's naive to think. But it means after Ramadan, when difficulties come your way because they're inevitable, how do we deal with them? When you practice that self-restraint in Ramadan from things that are normally halal outside Ramadan, eating, drinking, and whatnot, then you can restrain yourself from the haram things outside way easier. So I want to talk about firstly, what did we get? There's this hadith that we always talk about, kun fi dunya ka'annaka gharib. Live in this world like you're a traveler. But I think Ramadan gives you such a different angle on that. Why? Because when you're a traveler, when you're in the airport and you're asleep, let's say you woke up you have a flight at 5 a.m., you got to get to the airport at 3 a.m. You're not too upset about it. You just know that you got to get things done. It's okay if you sacrifice some sleep. Your main goal isn't getting that REM sleep, 8 hours of sleep or whatever on the days you're traveling. You're not too worried if you have to wait in a line or in a queue for whatever immigration, or the food's too bland at the airport. That's not your concern. Like, okay, it's a bit annoying, but fine. You know what your main goal is when you're at the airport, or you have to stay at one of those hotels. You're not worried about getting the best hotel. You're not obsessed about getting the best beds and the best accommodations in that hotel. It's just a one night at the airport. So this is what this idea of living in this world like a traveler really means. And this is exactly what Ramadan does to us, right? You think that only companions do that, they live that life of asceticism and, they're not too worried about this world. But that's exactly what this month did to all of us for 30 days, right? We fasted for 30 days, well, almost 30 days. And we stayed away from things that are outside of Ramadan, halal. We prayed, many of us, 20 rak'ahs in the night, 8 rak'ahs. We woke up early for Fajr. We ate a whole meal. Can you imagine eating a whole meal? I'm sure a lot of us ate a bigger meal in the morning. That's not comfortable. Eating a bigger meal at night, okay, that tastes nice. But of course, not eating in the whole day, that's hard. No one's watching, but you still stayed away from food, which otherwise tastes really nice. And you have access to it. There's one thing when you're involuntarily, you just don't have food. Well, that's one thing. But when you have access to food, the food's right there. Nobody's watching, but you're still not eating. So this idea, this is what taqwa, we always talk about it before Ramadan, but now we can look back and say, hey, we did get this. And don't belittle what you did, because many of us, we have this negative attitude towards ourselves that we don't like to acknowledge any good we did. We're like, no, I didn't do anything. You did. You stayed away. You did exactly what Allah told you. Of course, there were deficiencies, but it's still a huge accomplishment. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam. A pillar means a building stands up by these pillars. Without those pillars, you can't stand up. So one of the 5 pillars of Islam, you did this year. Right? So first you have to commend yourself for what you did and value the importance, because if you don't think it's valuable after Ramadan, why would you try and hold on to it? And I was just thinking about it, this is going to be later in the khutbah, but we can't treat Ramadan as if it was just like this emergency spare tire in the back. You only pull it out when you need it. It's got to be something you really take, like that day of Eid. The reason, why do we not fast on the day of Eid? It's not because, well, of course many of us, we wouldn't fast in general, but the reason we don't is because Allah told us you cannot fast on this day. But the day before we were fasting. Why? Because Allah told us to fast. So whether you're in Ramadan or outside, right the next day, you're still doing exactly what Allah told you. But don't make Eid an Eid for shaitan as well. Don't make this Eid a day when shaitan celebrates. Okay, now they're back. The moment you get out on that day of Eid, you're smoking, you're drinking, you're texting that girl again. Don't make it an Eid for shaitan as well. All right? So we have to take what we got in Ramadan and now apply it for the rest of the year. It's a course. Right? If you just go to college and then you come out of college and you forget everything you learned, well, what was the point of it? You just wasted your money. Allah doesn't need us not eating our food. It just makes you hungry, right? There's nothing you really get out of it, except for what in those other 11 months of the year, what you actually apply to your life. So now, what's the importance of keeping it? All right. So what are the reasons? Now we've talked about what exactly we achieved. This taqwa, this God consciousness, where we know Allah's ma'akum aynama kuntum. He's with you wherever you are, right? In His knowledge. What's the point of keeping this? One of the main reasons is if we're thinking about Allah's acceptance of our deeds. If you're not worried about Allah accepting your deeds, then that translates into ujub, or this idea of thinking of yourself, appraising your own deeds to a standard which is not correct. When we look at our deeds, we have to look at the deficiencies within them. Don't think, oh, I did these deeds, I just gave charity. No. Think about how much more do you spend on yourself. When you look at your fast, you're like, I just fasted 30 days. You also think about how much you backbited, how much you lied, how much you looked at what you weren't supposed to as well during those. Don't think about when you're just fasting, oh, I fasted. Also think about the deficiencies that were present in your ibadah. That'll keep you on your toes, right? We shouldn't get complacent. This world isn't an abode of complacency. It's an abode of constantly working towards getting to an end target. And the second reason is, at the end of the day, at least personally I felt this, and I think many of us share this sentiment, Ramadan is the time when we deprive ourselves of so much. Yet, for some reason, it's the time when we feel the most alive. It's the time when we deprive ourselves of so much, yet we feel the most alive, the most connected. You're not eating for most of the day. You're not drinking for most of the day. You wake up in early hours of the morning, and you're sleeping late at night. You're not getting enough sleep. You're tired when you're praying salah. Your legs are aching. Your back's aching. Yet, for some reason, throughout the day, you just feel the most happy, the most content with your life. Why is that? Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says, "Inna fi dunya jannah." In this world there is a jannah, there is a paradise. "Man lam yadkhulaha," whoever does not enter this one, "lam yadkhul al-jannat al-akhirah." Whoever doesn't taste this jannah is not going to taste the jannah of the akhirah. If you don't taste the sweetness of your worship in this world, you're not going to taste the sweetness of it in the hereafter, because there is a halwa, there is a sweetness that comes with the good deeds in this world. As Allah says, whoever does good deeds, they're going to give him a hayatan tayyibah, a pure life. It doesn't mean you're going to be getting rich, you're going to get a lot of money. No, it just means you're going to be content with what you have. And that's way more valuable than any billionaire's bank account. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah says, in the heart there's a sense of desolation, right? There's a wahsha. لا يزيلها إلا الأنس بالله. There is no way you can remove this sense of desolation except by knowing Allah and sincerely worshipping Him. And I'll end with this quote by Ibn al-Jawzi. He says, if the kings and the sons of kings, لو علم الملوك وأبناء الملوك ما نحن فيه, if they knew what we had, ما نحن فيه من النعم, if they knew what blessings we enjoyed because of this religion, لجادلونا عليه بالسيوف, they would have fought us for it with swords. They would have come to us with armies if they knew what we had, the contentment we got from this. They would think from the outside, what are you doing? You know, whenever you tell someone, hey, I'm not drinking water, they're like, not even water, 30 days? They think you're suffering. I mean, sure, you're hungry and all, but what you get deep down, if they knew, they would be rushing towards it. There's a hadith, مَثَلُ الَّذِي يَذْكُرُ رَبَّهُ وَالَّذِي لَا يَذْكُرُهُ مَثَلُ الْحَيِّ وَالْمَيِّتِ. The example of the person who remembers his Lord and the one who doesn't remember his Lord is like the hayy and the mayyit, the one who's alive and dead. Really, that's what it is, right? There's a spiritual life that you get only by this. There's nothing else in Ramadan that you're getting except for that spiritual life. And that connection with the community as well. There is a sense of community which is built. And there's, I heard recently from one of the scholars, they were saying where the Prophet ﷺ said, he was asked, what is the best meal? And he said, the one which has the most hands involved in it. It's not actually which food tastes the best. I mean, the human stomach, you'll be filled pretty quickly, right? You just eat, even if in the iftars here, you just eat like a couple of pakoras or something, you're full. But the real atmosphere of the people, the brotherhood you're sharing, the community, that's really the value that you're getting from Ramadans and the iftars in general, right? The Ramadan, it creates that sense of camaraderie. And now the real question is, how do we keep it, right? Of course, this is now, we know the importance of it, but how do we keep it? There's so much we got. Like if I gave you a gift card with an unlimited gift card, okay? You would really want to make sure this is safe. You're not going to just keep it in your pocket without any security. You're going to want to make sure this is safe. So how do we keep this safe? The first one, as I said, don't get complacent. Don't think that's it. I hopefully, as we know the hadith, من صام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. Whoever fasts Ramadan إيمانا واحتسابا, with faith and accountability to himself, غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. All of his past deeds will be forgiven. All of his past sins will be forgiven. But don't take that, don't interpret that like, now I'm good, now I'm set. There's an ayah in the Quran where Allah is talking about like how to perform Hajj basically. And He says, when people go to Arafah and you ask for forgiveness, there's also like all of your past sins are forgiven. But what does Allah say after that? He says, ثُمَّ أَفِيضُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَفَاضَ النَّاسِ, come out with all the people, right, in Hajj. وَاسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهِ, although He says to seek istighfar from Allah. But as I said, Arafah is a time when you're literally like a newborn baby, you have no sins. So why would you seek forgiveness from Allah? Because you're already acknowledging there were deficiencies in my worship. None of us, I don't think any of us could dare say, I prayed the way we were exactly supposed to pray. Or we fasted the way we were supposed to fast. I don't think any of us have the guts. We don't. I don't think any of us can say and should say that we fasted perfectly, or we worshipped and we prayed perfectly, or the zakat we gave was perfect. There were deficiencies in there. Sometimes arrogance did creep in. Sometimes negative thoughts did creep in. Sometimes there were other things, that those diseases that go into, I mean, technically you fulfill the letter of the law, as they say, but the spirit of the law has to be held, right? So not getting complacent, that's the first one. Making sure that we don't get complacent and think that we've passed it and that's it. There's just one more step in this journey of life, right? The second one, Bishr al-Hafi rahimahullah was told about people who strive hard in Ramadan, but then they get complacent and they stop afterwards. He says, إن قوم يتعبدون ويجتهدون في رمضان. These people, they strive hard in Ramadan. فقال بئس القوم. These wretched people لا يعرفون لله حقا. They don't know Allah truly. إلا في شهر رمضان. They only know Allah in the month of Ramadan. إن الصالح الذي يتعبد ويجتهد السنة كلها. But the real worshipper of Allah is the one who worships Him throughout the year. When Allah says, وَعْبُدَ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ, worship Allah until death comes to you, yaqeen, the certainty comes to you. He doesn't say حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْعِيدِ or حَتَّى تَرَوْنَ الْحِلَالِ, until you see the moon or Eid comes to you. No, you keep worshipping Allah because the reason you did Ramadan was because Allah told you. So when there are other things Allah tells you, praying your 5 prayers a day, those are also things Allah tells you. When He says to lower your gaze, those are things Allah tells you. When He says be the best to your family, those are things Allah tells you. It's the same Lord. It's the same you. It's just different commandments, but it's the same Lord, right? So we have to have the same level of obedience to Him. And now what are some practical steps? I'll just wrap up this segment with that. What are some practical steps? Okay, this is all a bit in the air. What are some steps we can take? So the first one, as I said, keeping good company. In this month, I'm sure you guys would have identified some people who were better to you, who were actually motivating, who were supporting of you. And you also identified people who were negative to you, as they say nowadays, negative energy, right? Now this is the time, this is our New Year's, right? We don't really celebrate New Year's in that sense, but this is our time of reflection. We can see what happened in this month because it's that reset. Who are the people who are really with you, who are in your camp, who you should be tight with, and who are those people you should separate from? Not saying you have to go and belittle them or whatnot, but you can gently, because you have to also be mindful of yourself. Many times we say we want to be a good influence on our friends, but remember they're also influencing you. There's a hadith, Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi, I believe, something along those lines. A man is on the religion of his friends, right? If you have, let's say, your 5 closest friends, who are they? If they're predominantly people who are going to have a negative impact on you, you're going to see it is going to have an impact on you. You could tell yourself no, but it just is a fact. Humans are social creatures. So if you're going to surround your social circle with negative people, even though you may have a good impact on them, but they're probably also going to have a negative impact on you, right? And Allah says in the Quran, الْأَخِلَّاءُ يَوْمَئِذٍ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوٌ إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ. That al-akhilla, Khalil, is like a close friend. Right? When Ibrahim is told to be Khalilullah, the close friend of Allah. It says al-akhilla, the people who are really tight in this world, they're going to be enemies on the Day of Judgment, except for the muttaqeen, except for the people who are actually conscious of God. Right? So just something to think about. Because these people, it's not like they're always going to be tight with you. The real people who care for you, who are going to be good for you, when things get hard, they're going to still be with you. They're going to have your back. But the people who should be out of your life, when things get hard, just watch. They're going to run. They're going to scatter like cockroaches. When things get scared, they run. They just care for themselves. But a real friend is the person who, when things get hard, when you're down, they can pick you up. They can get you back on your feet. So those are the people you want to surround yourself with. In another ayah, Allah says, وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ. When the oppressor or the tyrant, the one who wronged people, they have their hands in their mouth, they're trembling. On this day, on the Day of Judgment, they say, يَا لَيْتَنِ اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا. They say, why didn't I follow the path of the Prophet ﷺ? يَا وَيْلَتَى لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أَتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا. Why did I take this person as a friend? لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ بَعْدَ إِذْ جَاءَنِي. misguided me from the truth even after it came to me. So these are people who, at some point, they acknowledged the truth of Islam, but they had a friend, they had companions, they had people who pulled them away. So watch who you're close with, because these people do have an impact on you. And finally, what are some steps, as I said, which we can use to keep what we got during this month of Ramadan, is to keep some level of good deeds. Have some accountability with yourself. There's a saying by Imam Ahmad, and I think this is a good strategy for all of us. He says, اجعل لنفسك وردا من الأعمال الصالحة لا تتركه. Give from yourself, let's say, out of all of these voluntary good deeds. I mean, I'm not saying to any of you guys pray 20 rak'ahs every day outside of Ramadan. That's hard, I know. Or fast every other day. That's hard, I get it. But even if it's like just praying one qiyam, like 2 rak'ahs every week, just set for yourself a strict limit, he says. Give yourself one limit. That if you feel good on 1 week, fine, you do more than that. But if things get hard, you just come back to it. You don't go below it. So let's say right now you could think, okay, I want to do the adhkar al-masa wa sabah, right? Where you're doing the evening adhkar and the morning adhkar. What you have to say, as you can find online. Say, I'm going to set these up. I'm going to make sure I do them every day. Let's say every day is too much. You can say, okay, I'll just do Ayatul Kursi, which is one part of it. I'll do that in the morning, I'll do that in the evening. So if one day you're feeling great, you have that motivation, you do more. But if you have less, just go back to that. So give yourself a realistic benchmark you can come back to, but don't give yourself too high expectations, right? Because otherwise you'll just set yourself up for disappointment. And Umar radiallahu anh said, because now he's being realistic, Umar is being realistic with us, radiallahu anh. He says, these hearts have upswings and downswings, right? Our hearts, we're not always on that spiritual high. Right now, I'm sure many of us are. Sometimes some of us are not, and that's okay. He says we have upswings and downswings. So when they're upswinging, when we're feeling good, we're on it, then engage in voluntary acts of worship. Make sure you're doing your nawafil, you pray your sunan and rawatib, you're praying your 2 rak'ahs before fajr, you're doing your sunan before and after dhuhr, you're praying your sunan after maghrib and after isha. Make sure you're on it. Pray your witr. But he says when things are hard, when you're in that downswing stage, then just go back to your obligatory works. Don't stop those. Make sure, like my advice to anybody, even to myself firstly, if things get hard, even if you're doing lots of sins, when you're messing up, life gets hard, you have to focus on those 5 salawat. Make sure you're praying your 5 salawat. Just don't let them go. If you even miss dhuhr, make sure you don't say, okay, I missed it, whatever. Don't have that all or nothing attitude. Okay, you missed dhuhr, fine, you're going to do it, you're going to make sure you pray before asr, but then get right back on it. Because why? Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. Good deeds prevent bad deeds. And you can look at it 2 ways. One thing is if you're doing good deeds, you don't have the time to do bad deeds. But also you can think of it, if you do a bad deed, follow it up by a good deed. Right? Because that's cleansing your heart. And there are many ahadith to support this as well. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which I'm sure many of us would have heard. It's إنما الأعمال بالخواتيم. Right? We've heard the binniyat, that's a very common one. But another one is إنما الأعمال بالخواتيم. Actions are judged by their endings. And most of the times we interpret this as it really matters how you end your life, right? It doesn't matter really what you do in your life, should just be an accurate projection of how the ending of your life should be. That's the goal. The main goal is those final moments. What do you say? How are you acting? What state are you in? But we can also look at it on a micro level. Your good deeds, each of your good deeds should be judged by their endings. You could have, for many of us, maybe we aced this Ramadan, we did exactly what we wanted, or we got our B goal, we got our C goal, but we got stuff done. But the key is you could still mess that all up in these last final moments. You still have maybe 1 or 2 days, two or 3 days possibly. Don't mess it up. Keep going. And if you, let's say, messed up this Ramadan, you were not able to do what you wanted, the targets you set for yourself, you didn't, you looked at what you weren't supposed to, maybe you did even worse, okay, like you did whatever. Okay, but that doesn't mean you end it wrong too. Because if actions are judged by their endings, then you still have a chance to salvage it. And this is the quote I wanted to get to. Ibn al-Jawzi says, when the racehorse, I want you to imagine, how they have horse racing, right? He says when the racehorse knows that it's getting to the end of the race, right? He says it exerts all of its efforts to win the race. They call it the final kick of the race. Even for runners, when you're on that last bend, you go. Because this is the time when you can really, it's all or nothing. Now you don't worry about pacing yourself. You're just sending it. He says, don't allow the racehorse to be cleverer than you. So now we also know this. We know this is common sense, right? When you're towards the end of it, you put the pedal to the metal, as they say, right? Do not allow the racehorse to be cleverer than you. Indeed, deeds are judged by their conclusions. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ. Thus, if you didn't do well with welcoming Ramadan, then perhaps you'll do better bidding it farewell. So maybe you didn't, the beginning of Ramadan was, you were not in the right state, you were off, spiritually you're off, you weren't able to pray as much you wanted, okay, fine. But let's finish it strong, right? Allah isn't a Lord He's like, oh, the first maybe 25 days you were off, but the last 5 days, He's going to judge you based on your efforts now. So you could have done really well, but you still have to end well. And you could have done really bad, but you still have to end strong. And Ibn Rajab says, Ibadallah, Ramadan is ending and very little of it remains. Whoever from you spent it well should finish it the same way. And whoever is falling behind should finish it in the best manner. For the reward of actions are judged by their endings. And also another sort of practical tip, which I'm also going to try and apply, hopefully all of us can apply, is to be plentiful in istighfar now. Just by saying astaghfirullah, asking Allah to forgive you. Ibn Rajab also says, he says, istighfar, seeking forgiveness, is the seal of all good acts. Salah, Hajj, Qiyamul Layl are concluded with it. And so, like even when you, once you finish your salah, you say astaghfirullah, 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 and then you start doing your Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam. You do all your adhkar after salah, but you always start with istighfar. Why? Because you're already admitting that there were deficiencies in my salah. Don't get complacent. This is the time, astaghfirullah. As I said, even for the Hajj, ثُمَّ أَفِيضُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَفَاضَ النَّاسُ وَاسْتَغْفِرُ When you finish your Hajj and you should be happy, no more bad deeds, go back, astaghfirullah, right? You're going right back to the drawing board. And in I believe it's in Surah Fussilat, Allah says, فَاسْتَقِيمُوا إِلَيْهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرُوا. You seek istiqamah, you try and get back upright, and then وَاسْتَغْفِرُوا. In Surah Muzammil, Allah says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. Establish salah. وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةِ. Give your zakah. وَأَقْرِضُوا اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا. And give Allah a good loan. وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ. And whatever you set forth for yourself in the future from good, تَجِدُوهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. You'll find it with Allah. It's not going to be wasted. هُوَ خَيْرًا وَأَعْظَمُ أَجْرًا. Allah is the best and He's plentiful in giving recompense. وَاسْتَغْفِرُ. So you do all of this good, but even then, get right back to it. Astaghfirullah. Inna Allah ghafur rahim. Allah is ghafur rahim. And now just to quickly end up, I know we're running short on time, but still, now Eid is also coming up. You have to look at what are the essentials for Eid, what are the sunan of Eid. Number one, you want to make sure you're doing a ghusl before the Eid Salah, right? Make sure it's from the sunnah that you do a ghusl before the Eid Salah. It's not from the sunnah, but many of the Salaf used to do this, so it is also recommended that inshallah we also do this. It is also recommended to wear nice clothes and wear perfume, but still within modesty, covering your aura, not being tight-fitting clothes. So still dress modestly, but this is a time of celebration. Wear nice clothes, wear your best clothes, and wear your perfume. It is also recommended to eat something before you leave the house, ideally an odd number of dates. This is how the Prophet ﷺ did, eat an odd number of dates. Remember, Ramadan, the fasting was for Ramadan. We did that. Now Allah is telling us to do it this way, so we do it this way. You're also getting rewarded for eating, right? I know it's hard to imagine that, but you're getting rewarded for eating if you're doing it for the sake of Allah. And number 4, takbirat from the night of Eid, so when the crescent is seen, until the Salat al-Eid. So Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd. And men should raise their voices and do it loudly. And 5, when you're going to Eid, so this is a bit hard in Bermuda, but when you're going and you're coming back to the venue or wherever the Eid Salah is, go and come back from a different path. So I know that if you're going from Middle Road, then come back maybe through South Road or whatever is possible. I know in Bermuda it's kind of hard. We have so few roads, but whatever is possible, because that's symbolizing a new journey. Right? We're turning a new chapter. This is a new part of our life. Let's get it. Okay? So inshallah, may Allah accept it from us all and keep us steadfast. Ameen.